What's up, Infected, and welcome to the Quarantine. This video I'm going to be covering a game that's actually currently on Kickstarter by the name of True Messiah. True Messiah is an abstract strategy game set place in the future, kind of a post-apocalyptic style future, and the players are these different religious sects that are all vying for control over the land. Now, for anybody who's concerned, there is no religious iconography in the game or anything like that. It's all pretty neutral. So the way they go about it, it's not going to be offensive for one religion or the other. So for anybody who's concerned with that. But overall, the game is an abstract strategy game with a little bit of deck building and a little bit of blind bidding. So let's just check out how it plays. Alright, so before I get started, I do need to state, as usual of course, this is a Kickstarter prototype of the game, so what you get will of course be subject to change. So here I have the game set up for 2 players. Now there's some dotted lines on the board here that restrict the play field or the play area based on the number of players. That way it keeps the game tight. And you can clearly see them. You may not be able to see them in the video, but there's dotted lines. So in this case, my map is only going to be this big. Everything else outside of that is not actually in play. Now the only other difference between a 2, 3, and 4 player game is you're going to be adding these tiles in certain spots on the board, and these basically give you more income if you control them at the end of the round. And then in a 4 player game, it's going to be black and white versus red and purple, and it's going to be a team based game. So as you see here, the game is set up and ready to go. So what's going to happen is each player is going to make their initial first movement. So basically everything can move 2 spaces unless something says otherwise. And each player simultaneously is going to move whatever they want. So for example, maybe I want to move these up here, and then maybe I'll move these over here, and I'll keep my Messiah there. Now the relevance to this will be clear here in just a moment. Now once both players have made their initial movements, red player is always going to go first. Let's face it, because they're the best player. But the game is always going to go red, black, purple, white, and then market phase. It's always going to stick to that unless something says otherwise. So on your turn, you're going to just follow the order of play chart that you see here. So step 1 is going to be the beginning phase. You're going to flip over any preaching followers. So your followers can pray to generate points. So on your turn, you're going to follow a pretty strict sequence of play. So first and foremost, the thing that happens is any of your praying followers, you're going to flip back over to normal followers. Now, later on, it'll make a little more sense. You're going to be able to use followers to be able to play these cards that kind of change the rules and give you special little abilities here. But once you do that, then you're going to recruit new followers. Now, recruiting followers is very important, and it happens kind of special, which is where this first little initial movement got to come from. So first and foremost, you're going to see if you have a holy space, which for all intent and purpose, a holy space is your city or any temples that you build, which you see over here. So in this case, if you have a holy space with a lone Messiah on it, you just get to put 2 followers on that tile and only that tile. Then you're going to see each other holy space with 2 or more followers get to recruit 1 on any. So what that means is, let's say, I don't know, hypothetically, these 3 had 2, 2, and 2. I'm going to have 3 followers. I could put 1 on each, 2 on this, 2 on this, you know, however you want. Well, not 2 on this, 2 on this, that would be 4, because math is hard. But you get the idea. You can put those ones anywhere, but only on a holy city. Now it also needs to be noted, there's a unit limit of 4 pieces in any given square. So if you have a temple, let's just say hypothetically, I was going to be summoning into this one. I have 4 in there. I don't have any available space, so I wouldn't actually be able to summon into that one because that temple is full. Then you're going to move to the next step. You're going to build temples. So any space that you have 4 followers in, you will then get to build a temple and put that in its place. So this is where the placement of your people is very, very important. Then you're going to draw back up to 6 cards. So if you didn't have 6 cards in your hand, you should at this point. Now is when you go into your action phase. So this is where it's a little more freeform. You get to move, pray, and play miracles. Now, the way movement works is everything can move 2 spaces and you get 6 movement points. So for example, I could go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then maybe move these 3 dudes up here. So that would be all 6 of my movement points. However, if your Messiah started on a non-holy space, you instead get 9 movement points. So again, this is all abstract strategy, trying to figure out how to best position all your people. But that's how movement works. It's fairly simple. There is no diagonals. There's only orthogonals. I don't remember what that is, so we'll just say they're right there. It's only orthogonal, up, down, left, or right. There is no diagonals. So the next thing you can do, and this movement also applies to your Messiah. So I could go, 1, 2, move these guys, whatever. Now, you have these cards here. Now in the top left corner, there's a number. Now this is both the cost to acquire the card and the amount of prayer points to use this card. So if I wanted to play Pious Benefactor to get money, I can play this, and you're going to flip 2 of your followers face down to where they have this little praying icon. I've generated 2 prayer points. I play this card. I get my 1 coin. Then you can continue to play as many cards as you want. I can, move a couple dudes, play a card, move a couple more dudes, whatever. You could do it pretty much however you want in any order, as long as you stay within your movement limit and you pray with, only people that are in temples. That's very important. They have to be in a temple to actually generate those prayer points. Then at the end of your action phase, if you are orthogonally adjacent to any enemy unit, you must declare combat on them. So if this was here, they would have to declare here. So the way combat is going to work is you have to dedicate all of your units to 1 square. So if hypothetically, if I had it like this, I couldn't say these guys are going to attack this, this is going to attack this. They have to attack here, but both of them can attack here, or they can split theirs up because they're 2 different squares, if that makes sense. So in this situation, you're always going to go 1 for 1, so both of these people die. Combat is always simultaneous, and again, you're going to have cards that are going to mitigate this and break some of these rules and change some of these rules. But in general, it's going to be 1 for 1, and then at that point, the combat is over. With the exception of if there is a temple there that's now no longer occupied, you can occupy that temple and either burn that sucker to the ground, or you can occupy it and turn it into one of your temples. Now there's a couple extra rules that I'll just kind of gloss over here, which is your Messiah can block 1 attack per square attacking it. So in this case, if we go back to the combat as we had it, in this case, this player would lose theirs, but I wouldn't lose any of mine because my Messiah blocks 1 of those attacks. Now the other exception is your Messiah gets 3 attacks. They do not have to attack only a single square. They can attack 2 here and 1 here, or however they want. Now there's another special rule where you have the Avatar. Now the Avatar is basically a souped up follower and a dumbed down Messiah, essentially. It's got some extra health, it has its own special rules, and I'll leave that for you to discover later. You're going to be summoning that with cards. Now once your combat's over, the next player in line, so black, then purple, then white, are then going to take their turns, exactly the same way. Then, at that point, you're going to enter the market phase. Now the market phase is where things get interesting. You're going to take the deck of cards here, you're going to draw 3 cards, plus 1 card for every player. And then you're going to flip them over, everybody's going to look at them, everybody's going to ooh and ah these cards. Now, this is where these coins come into play that you've been hoarding this entire game. You're going to take these, you're going to look at the cards, and as I said, top left corner, that's how much they also cost to acquire them. So these are going to be fanned out, on the board usually, and you're going to take these coins into your hand. Now you can buy a maximum of 2 cards, but you're going to take these in your hand, as many as you want, and you're going to do a blind bid. So in this case, I have 5 coins. I'm going to keep 1 maybe, keep it off to the side, and everybody's going to hold their fist out. And you're going to reveal, and then you're going to buy cards highest to lowest. So in this case, let's say my opponent only bid, I don't know, let's go with 3. My opponent bid 3, I bid 5. I'm going to get to pick first. Now here's the kicker. I can only buy 5 coins worth of cards. So I can buy this 2 and this 3. But I can't buy this 4 and this 3 because I don't have enough money. So you can only buy with what you bid. Whatever you bid, you will lose. So let's say I screwed my opponent out of buying something somehow. And they didn't have, let's say I bought that 2 and they only bid 2. Then those 2 coins are gone. So I screwed them out of being able to buy anything at all. So it's very important to keep track of what you think you're going to buy, what your opponent may buy, so on and so forth. Now, if we both bid, say, 4, and we both bid 4 and revealed, the ties are broken in reverse turn order. So white, then purple, then black, then red. Now, once you buy these cards, they're going to go to your discard pile, and then in standard deck builder fashion, if you ever have to draw a card and can't, shuffle your discard pile and then draw from the new deck. And the game is going to continue back and forth like this until one of 3 things happen. Either the enemy player's Messiah dies, and the Messiah has 6 health and a mask, and as long as they have that mask, they can discard the mask to get 6 more health. So, for all intent and purpose, they have 12 hit points, unless things wind up changing that. The other way you win is by taking the enemy's Holy City, which is the starting tile. If you take that, then you are declared the winner. And then the last victory condition is if your opponent has 4 or less followers on the table. At that point, they would be declared the loser. Now, there is one last thing. If you wind up getting cards out of your deck, you can cull cards as a standard deck builder. If you ever have less than 8 miracle cards in your deck, then you have forfeited the match. And that is how you play True Messiah. Now, I'm going to say right out of the gates, the artwork alone really caught my eye on this game. When I was contacted to do a review, I really enjoyed just the artwork alone. For example, the red faction looks very Warhammer 40,000-esque. The Colosseums they have, very gothic, very gaudy, and golds and skulls and all that stuff. Very Warhammer 40k-ish. And then the backs of the cards look very Geigerish, which I thoroughly enjoy as well. But how is the game? Well, the game itself is really good, to be completely honest. Now, the biggest thing you're going to have a problem with learning this game, because it's actually pretty simple, is remembering what recruits, what builds. Okay, you have to have 4 people in one square to build a temple, but you have to have 2 people or more on a temple to get 1 person anywhere, or if your Messiah is by itself, you get 2 people on that temple. Or if your Messiah is not on a temple, you just get extra movement. So you have to keep track of that. With that said, there's player reference cards that are included. They break all that down pretty well for you. So there's not a lot you really have to keep track of. Just follow that turn order track and you'll be fine. Now, the deck building aspect of the game, I actually really like. I like it a lot more than I thought. I'm a big fan of the bidding systems. You know, a lot of games use it. Put coins in your hand, you put them out, flip them over. Oh, you outbid me, yada. And so it's pretty cool. But the thing that I like about this one is no matter what you bid, you're going to lose. So it adds another level of strategy. When you look at those cards and you go, okay, how many coins did you have total? All right, you had 5. So if you bid all 5, you can only buy this and this. So I'm going to bid more than you, buy just those cards so you don't get to buy cards. Maybe I didn't need those cards. Maybe I'll cut them out of my deck later. But I slowed you down by a turn. And I like that because it winds up being very stressful, especially when both players or all players have right around the same area of coins. Because on top of that, maybe you don't want to bid a whole bunch of coins because there's maybe 1 or 2 cards you want. And maybe they're lower levels, because some of the lower cost cards are really good. Granted, the high cost cards are obscene, but some of the low cost cards are really good. So it's a constant juggle of, okay, do I want to make sure I get to buy first by bidding more, but maybe overbidding, because you can only buy 2 cards as well, or do you just bid low, exactly what you need, hope for the best, and there's a lot going on. Now, some of the things some people will not like about this game is where it is an abstract strategy game, it is a very rich get richer style of game. Now, it doesn't mean you can't bounce back, it just means it's going to be an uphill battle, and that hill is going to get steeper and steeper as you go on. Now, normally in games, I have a problem with that. I don't like rich get richer games. However, in abstract strategy games, I can kind of give it a pass. Take take chess, for example. If you start losing more and more pieces than your opponent, doesn't mean you've lost. It just means it's going to be a little harder for you to win. Because, your opponent now has more options, more stuff that they can do, and more ways to get around you. Same thing with this. Just because, you know, your opponent is kicking in your doors and has you surrounded, it means you're probably going to lose, but it doesn't mean you will. With decent strategy, decent tactics, you know, you may be able to pull it back out, even that playing field a little bit more. But that's really the biggest complaint that I can see with the game. The only other thing is some people aren't going to like that blind bidding system. I adore it, but some people aren't going to like that. So that is maybe another small negative. And the last negative that I have with the game is actually the 4-player mode. Now, 4-player mode is a team, 2v2. I personally would have liked to have seen open up the whole board, everybody starts like 1 square away from the corner or something, and just have a free-for-all. Not really sure why they forced it into a team mode. I feel that should have been more optional, but that's not really that big of a deal. And that is my review for True Messiah. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time in the Quarantine.